Hey guys, welcome to one of my first streams in a while. So hopefully we can test out some of the kinks. I have an earnings streaming for Nvidia going on tomorrow. So what I really want to do today is just kind of check out how things are going with the stream, do some Q&A sessions. Obviously, we do have a lot of questions before Nvidia reports earnings tomorrow. So feel free to comment on the chat what you guys want to learn about, any thoughts on Nvidia. If not, I'm just going to take a closer look at some of the things I'm going to be keeping a closer eye on during the earnings call. And like always, I just want to say thank you to everyone for supporting. Again, it's been a while since I've done a live stream, especially solo. So feel free to let me know if you guys have any questions. And we have first question here: when are earnings coming out? Earnings should be out tomorrow around 4:15 after the market closes, so about 15 minutes after the market closes. We do have we're gonna get the press release, and then at 5 o'clock we're gonna get the earnings call. I'm gonna guess most of the important information is gonna happen during the earnings call, as that's when we're gonna get the Q&A session. And there's a lot of discussions that I believe analysts are gonna be talking to Nvidia, especially with the Blackwell delays or rumors with it. So I think obviously the most important is going to be the last 30 minutes of the earnings call, which is going to be the Nvidia Q&A section. So we can see a few. Thank you. We already got some comments here on the chat. But we can see Nvidia actually had a really nice day today. The stock was up roughly 1.46%. I mean, Nvidia, you guys know me. We've talked about Nvidia almost on a daily basis. Year to date, the stock has dominated, up 166%. And we did kind of see this kind of negative trend on early August where everybody was worried about the demand for AI. And we also kind of got those negative press about the Nvidia Blackwell rumors. My music spot, Jose, thoughts on Axles, please. You know, I'm not one I have too much. I have too much knowledge on, but we can probably learn a little bit more about it. Actually, let me pull the chat here. So what else do we have? So we have Ellie. It can't multiply like it has due to market size. Do you think it will go to 4 trillion this year? Is it plausible? So I agree, Ellie, right? I don't believe it's going to be a lot harder for Nvidia to 2x, 3x like we saw it do a year ago. I don't think it means it's impossible that it can't do that. It definitely will take a little bit longer. 4 trillion this year. I mean, it all depends on how we continue to see this AI demand. Yesterday, I was actually looking at a conference from, and let me just pull it up real quick. Hot Chips. So Hot Chips is this pretty cool program that goes on where they talk about kind of the technical aspects of semiconductors. And yesterday there was a pretty cool conference by OpenAI. So we had a lot of big companies report yesterday, but one cool company was OpenAI, and they kind of talked about the predictable scaling and infrastructure of the AI market. And in that space, in that presentation, OpenAI mentioned that, hey, look, the demand that we need to kind of scale this AI solutions continues to grow at such a rapid pace. So obviously hearing things like that, it showcases that there's going to continue to be huge demand for AI. If that's the case, I don't see why Nvidia can't continue to go up in stock price. But like you mentioned, Ellie, I don't believe there's going to be, I don't believe it can 2x or something like that this year. A $6 trillion company, it would be insane. Obviously, as my number one position, I would love that, but I definitely don't have my hopes up. Deep, thank you for the live chat. What is your overall view on earnings and the stock performance? So overview on earnings, I think earnings are going to be great. I do have my Substack where I did kind of release all the things I'm going to be looking at. I think the most important things are going to be obviously the Blackwell saga, any kind of rumors, any kind of guidance on the delays. I think this is going to be the biggest thing, and to be honest, based on everything that I'm reading right now, I don't believe it's going to be a big deal, and the demand for Hopper and the rest of the products are still pretty strong. The second thing, obviously, and these are the three big things I'm really focusing on here. I have actually 17 in this Substack. But the second thing is obviously beating revenue expectations. Revenue is expected to be roughly 28.7 billion, 113% year-over-year growth, and earnings per share is expected to be 64 cents, 138% year-over-year growth. This is very in line with what Nvidia kind of guided last quarter. The CFO mentioned 28 billion plus or minus 2%, which would roughly fall around what analysts are expecting. I think Nvidia can outperform revenue. And the other thing is the Chinese market, right? We have heard from various reports that the H20, which is designed for the Chinese market, is expected to see a lot of revenue. If this is true about the H20 chip, then I believe Nvidia is going to dominate earnings tomorrow. So let's see what else we have. What's going on, Mike? What's going on, Midwest? So Flip Van, there's so much hype around the earnings. I'm getting nervous because of analyst expectations and now how Nvidia has to have another blowout. Good earnings just won't cut it, sadly. That's true, Flip. I think there's so much hype around it, but obviously in the short term, anything can happen. As a long-term investor, I think tomorrow is a win-win. If we do see maybe some weakness in stock price, I believe it would be a buying opportunity. If we see some great stock price reaction, it obviously would be good for Nvidia shareholders. So I think unless we see something crazy, and obviously I would discuss it during tomorrow's episode, but unless we see something crazy, I really wouldn't be too worried about the stock price itself. Midwest, what's going on, Midwest? Mark, do you think Nvidia will sell out inventory into calendar year of 2026? Well, I think, Mark, one thing with AI chips is the way manufacturing gets built or ramps up. So in 2026, that's when we're expecting the Rubin platform, right? So if we're expecting the Rubin platform, I think they're always going to be in some form of supply to demand unbalance. Especially if the demand for AI chips continues to grow. So I think it can continue to sell out inventory for sure, especially if they keep updating these chips at a rapid pace. Mike, thanks, Jose. Love your video. Mike, thanks for all the support. I just hope it hits expectations. I have a lot in my main position. So Dilemma, same here. It's one of my biggest position. It's my biggest position in my overall portfolio. I don't really... like I said, even if it misses expectations, I think in the long term, we will be fine as investors. My music spot. Why do you think TSM stock is lagging behind some of the other semiconductors? Great PE, great earnings. Stock is down from 193 to 170. And to be honest, I get a lot of hate for this, my music, but I'm not a huge fan of TSM. The reason I'm not a huge fan of TSM is TSM is such a major company of the semiconductor market that the semiconductor market is either going to be, if TSM does well, the whole semiconductor market is going to do well, right? Because TSM manufactures the chips for every single company. If TSM does bad, then that means the whole semiconductor market is going to do bad. So for me, TSM, I would rather own a semiconductor ETF because I believe they're going to give me like the same type of results. For example, we can see TSM in the past 5 years has done roughly 300%. If we take a closer look at SMH, I think in the past 5 years it's done 328. Wang, you said audio is a bit low. Let me see if I can fix that for you. Any better here? Testing, testing. Is audio still low? But yeah, so for me, TSM is just way better. Even though I'm bullish in TSM, still low. All right, audio low. Let me just try to fix it. And this is why I'm trying to do this live stream today, just so we can also get all the kinks up for tomorrow. But let's see if my audio's gotten a little bit better. Any better here? Testing, 1 2 1 2. Crowd control, Zay the semiconductor guy. Thank you, I appreciate it. I can hear you good, man. Thank you, my music spot. Okay, so let's see what other questions do we have. Hi, Jose. Please, if you can explain in short why on trading graphs sometimes lines of Nvidia and some other shares are of same oscillations. They look almost the same, just a few percentage different. It just depends on the overall market, right, Bohan? certain stocks just follow a certain trend, and that's why you're going to get similar results. For example, right, you're going to see SMH, ASML. If you look at all these semiconductor equipment stocks, especially when they're in the same market, they tend to follow the same trend. That can obviously change over times, but usually that's the case. Let's see, Mike, number 2 position, Nvidia. Alec, 19,000 shares strong. Alec, that's probably one of the biggest I've seen. I'm worried about tomorrow's call, sitting on 30K calls. Vasil, my apologies for butchering the name. I think tomorrow, Nvidia is such a volatile stock, so with calls, it can go any direction. I wouldn't be worried if I was an equity investor like I am for Nvidia. If I was more of an option or leverage investor, definitely gonna have some worries due to the overall volatility, time decay, and everything else with Nvidia. So best of luck to you. Alec over here, Robert sitting with 15,000. Nice. Most of my exposure is via QQQs and SPYs ETF. I own some shares, but in terms of risk appetite, prefer to invest in quality ETFs with the baskets. And Melissa, that's definitely a great direction to go, right? I personally have mentioned if I didn't enjoy researching individual companies, I think I would just invest in a SMH. My whole portfolio, I think, would be SMH because I believe the semiconductor market is the complete future for every technology, autonomous driving, space travel, even in the future if we get to something, obviously I'm hallucinating here, but like time machine, right? Anything like that is going to be possible thanks to kind of the advancements of semiconductor products. So for me, if I was never to look at the stock market again, I would just invest in the semiconductor ETF and enjoy from there. Hey, Jose, what did the SMI news mean today? So what SMI, I didn't really follow the stock today. So let's see, any major news? Short sellers, blast. All right, so this is a short serial. Supermicro stock fell more than 2% following the report from short seller, claiming, among other things, accounting manipulations at the AI high flyer. Found glaring accounts reflects evidence of undisclosed related party transactions and export control failures and customer issues. All right, so one thing with Supermicro is Supermicro has been known in the past, I want to say 4 to 5 years, to have done some weird accounting practices. So it does seem like a short seller is saying that it's going through that map again. From what I'm seeing in the AI market, I don't believe Supermicro has to do that. And obviously, if they did it 4 years ago and they got caught, hopefully they're not dumb enough to do it again. So maybe this might just be a short seller trying to just push some negative news on Supermicro. I've talked about Supermicro in the past, how I'm personally not a fan of the AI hardware server market, as that's very a market with very low margins. But that's I've discussed that when the stock was at like $1,000. I think right now at 547, this stock seems a little bit too attractive, and it's something that I would probably play via options or maybe equities, but more likely options for Supermicro, as I believe in the long term this can definitely be at a higher stock price than it is right now. I also think Supermicro is going to be the one that buys AMD's manufacturing side of that ZT systems, but that's something we're going to have to listen to in later in the future. So let's see, anybody here following Supermicro to see what are your thoughts on kind of that short seller thesis? Darius. Okay, let's see. Let me see. I'm trying to get all the questions I can, so hopefully we can. We have there, Ellie. If it misses expectations by small margins, does that mean double-digit percentage drop? I think Nvidia, yes. Even if they miss by a single-digit percentage points in either revenue or earnings or even guidance, you're gonna see a very strong drop on Nvidia. But based on all the channels that I follow in forms of inventory, in forms of obviously management discussions and commentary from conferences, I don't believe that's going to be the case. Darius, Jose, do you think delay with Blackwell chip will change the consumer sentiment towards Nvidia tomorrow? They may beat expectations, but stock tanks. I think, Darius, if investors and analysts don't understand what the delay is happening, right? We could I don't think the delay is as bad as we think it is. If there is a delay, I think Nvidia is still going to release the amount of products that they need, and we're still seeing the appetite from the H100 and the H200 areas. But what I would believe is, like you mentioned, the sentiment towards the stock. I think if we hear the word delay from Jensen or from Nvidia's management, the whole community from YouTube to CNBC to Yahoo Finance, that's all they're going to talk about. They're going to talk about, look, Nvidia had a delay. It's game over for Nvidia because of the delay. So I think if we do hear about the delay, the media is going to go crazy and it's going to try to shift this very bearish sentiment towards the stock. That's why it's going to be important to understand what's happening. And I'm going to try to cover that all in tomorrow's earnings episode to make sure we don't get sucked in with the negative sentiment if there's one behind Nvidia. So let's see a bit better. What else do we have? Moose, I'm passing with 79 shares. Hey, 79 shares. Who knows? If they do a 10-to-1 split in the future again, you'll have 790. David, some analysts say that AI doesn't have any revenue yet, but Amazon said they saved around 260 million in migrating to Java 17 thanks to AI. Could efficiency count as revenue? And I think that's the case, right, David? I think analysts and investors are just looking for a AI revenue segment, but that's not the case and how you have to think about AI. You have to understand the revenue growth from their core products, right? Meta Platforms, they grew revenue in their ads. It doesn't say AI revenue, but you know that ad revenue is growing because of AI. Same with Microsoft with their Copilot solution. Same with probably companies like GitLab, companies in like ServiceNow. So you're not going to see an AI revenue line. It's important to understand if they're saving money, like you mentioned, in forms of efficiency as well. Ray, what time exactly will this take place tomorrow? Thank you, Ray. We have earnings on after the market closes. Earnings press release from Nvidia comes out at 4:15 usually, and their earnings call comes out at 5. So those are going to be the best, the two things important. What else do we have? I'm sure, hope it will not be the case. I agree. When hyperscalers eventually slow down or stop their center build-outs, do you think Nvidia's stock price will be? I believe if we hear CapEx decline in forms of the mega players, that's definitely going to be the case. But right now, we're hearing from many companies that AI development still needs to continue at high training data center growth. So we right now have what? Data center clusters with 16,000, with 24,000. We just had xAI open up their 100,000 cluster. I think we're going to continue to see 100,000 cluster GPUs. And in 2026 and 2027, Jensen believes we can even get to 1 million GPU clusters, which is not impossible to think when you look at that growth projection. So, I mean, definitely it would be scary if we hear data center dropping CapEx, but I don't believe we're going to see that anytime soon. Anthony, how long do you think it will take to recover on the miss? Anthony, that's a very, very interesting question. I don't think I can answer that. I think it all depends on what we hear tomorrow. But in my thoughts, if there is any decline for real growth, we will probably have to wait at least to the next earnings to see how things are. Will there be a live stream or earnings report? Tom, yes, I will be live streaming the earnings report live tomorrow and the earnings call as well. Dilemma, Nvidia had a pretty strong run in Q2. I think they'll beat. Black Monday came in August, so I think this earnings will be all right. I agree, Dilemma. I mean, I don't know what the stock price is going to do tomorrow. I think in forms of financials, Nvidia is going to dominate. It's going to give us great guidance, and we're going to hear a lot of great things from sovereign AI, from AI demand, from Blackwell demand, for H100, H200 demand. So I think we're going to hear a lot from Nvidia tomorrow. So in forms of financials, I'm not worried. Obviously, the stock price can definitely go in different directions. Nvidia had a pretty strong, let's see, Adis, MU. What do you want to know about Micron? So Micron, I've talked about Micron in the past. Obviously, Micron is a company that deals with the memory side. Wow, Micron has fallen a nice amount. Micron is down roughly 36%, sitting below $100. So Micron, for those that are not familiar, provides Nvidia with HBM memory, high bandwidth memory, which is used on some of their AI chips. The biggest supplier of this for Nvidia though is SK Hynix. SK Hynix is the best and the leader in HBM right now. SK Hynix has plenty and plenty of manufacturing capacities. They're also teaming up with TSMC. I personally don't invest in the memory market because they're very cyclical, more cyclical than the rest of the semiconductor space. They're also very prone to pricing war. So obviously Micron can definitely grow from here, but memory stocks are usually ones that I tend to stay away because of the volatility, because of the pricing war, and because of the competition. We know that SK Hynix in forms of HBM is leading right now, and they're not letting off the gas. Micron, though, they are investing in capacity here for they're investing a lot of capacity, money capex on capacity. So obviously Micron can definitely benefit from the HBM market. I remember Micron mentions that they have sold capacity of HBM for this year, and I believe even for 2025. But again, I can definitely see a bullish reason for Micron technology, but I personally wouldn't invest in it. Average millennial investor, what's the overall sentiment from analysts versus retail on earnings? I think both are actually very, very bullish. I don't think any is any less bearish. Maybe retail might just be might be even more hopeful. But I think analysts, from what I'm reading, the analyst community is very, very bullish. Mark, plus a lot of data centers are in the pipeline, major Nvidia growth. Agree, Mark. And we've heard from even power supply companies that, hey, look, the demand for these solutions continue to grow. So right now, I'm not too worried about data center demand. So there's not a whistleblower, and we don't see many people have been selling. So I think we have some chance of a good earnings tomorrow. Also appreciate the super chat. It means a lot. Thank you so much. So appreciate that. And yeah, I agree. We probably don't will have good earnings tomorrow. And right now, there's no competition in this space, right? I mean, AMD has the MI300, but it's I believe AMD can benefit in the future. It's not the MI300, right? I think AMD will do really good with the MI400, but we still have to go to the MI300, the MI325, and the MI350. So I think for now, Nvidia is in this with really no competition. Let's see. I will sell. Learn. Best of luck. Justin, can countries without restriction buy Nvidia's chips and sell them to China, or let China access asset in the back door? Justin, yes and no. Obviously, if countries were to do this, because they are export restrictions, you're gonna be frowned upon by Nvidia's by the United States government, and a lot of countries don't want to do that, right? So most of these restrictions are gonna be on countries like China and their allies that we would expect to kind of give these types of hardware chips to them. So obviously, it can happen, but I don't believe that's going to be the case. What's happening right now, though, there is a backdoor, Justin, where clouding companies are able to still give some of these AI chip solutions to China. And I think that's what the United States government is working on tightening up, because there is like some backdoor rules that can still allow them to get access to the chips. So I think it's something that we're going to continue to hear. And if we do hear more export restrictions, I think it's going to be more on the kind of clouding companies like Microsoft, like Amazon, like Google, and any of these other players that are able to provide AI clouding solutions. Let's see, what else do we have? What point of earnings stock loss 10% before earnings and get? I'm not sure, right? Johan, any word on the custom ASIC division? Looks like Broadcom is taking away their food. I think it seems like Broadcom is taking away their food, but I mean, Nvidia still has this huge market. If they can still fuel the appetite in just GPUs and data center AI accelerators, then I think they're going to continue. Maybe we might hear more about the ASIC market, but let's see. Let me try to find it. Yesterday, I did have a pretty cool Twitter. Not, I didn't have it, but let me just see. Data center roadmap. Boom, 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 boom. I can't find it. I'll probably do it some other time. But obviously, I think Broadcom is definitely doing really good in forms of ASIC solutions. They're working really well, especially since Broadcom is supposedly working with OpenAI. So OpenAI, Broadcom, let's see, Broadcom secures major win with OpenAI, Google, and Meta reportedly. So Broadcom definitely getting into this nice market. But at the end of the day, I think GPUs are still going to continue to be a big player. If we take a closer look at AFCO or Broadcom, stock is sitting at 161. This is one of those stocks that I believe can definitely be a nice number 2 here in the AI space. Next to kind of AI ASIC solutions. So Broadcom, pretty interesting. One I don't own. I think Nvidia is still the best play right now. Hold to 2028. That's definitely the best thing. Hold Nvidia, hold till forever. Well, no, until things change. A new question: if they miss expectations and I want out, who has access to the aftermarket trade? Ellie, I think you just have to request access to aftermarket trade. If you're using Robinhood, I think you need to have like their pro solution. And then if you're using other types of brokers, you just have to ask for that request. So it's usually a free access. For example, I use Fidelity, and with Fidelity, I have free access to it. I just had to request it. So Mark, what does Nvidia need to report for current quarter, next quarter, and commentary to hit it out the park? So I have it here on my, do I have my Substack open? I don't believe I have my Substack open. Let's go to Substack, Jose Naharo, Substack. So I just posted this a few days ago. I mean, you guys can read this, but it doesn't really matter. Viewpoints. So Nvidia earnings, in forms of revenue, they're expected to report 28.7 billion this upcoming quarter, which would be 113% year-over-year growth. Earnings per share of 64 cents. I actually believe they're going to be more closer to the 29 billion, a little bit in the mid 29 billions. This is nearly what CFO Colette guided in the previous quarter. So I think they're going to beat this forecast easily. Now for quarter 3, guidance is definitely getting a little bit higher. They're expecting roughly $31.6 billion in revenue for guidance next quarter and 71 cents. I think we're probably going to get somewhere around 32.5. I do believe they beat on both revenue on both this quarter and guidance. Now, anything much higher than that would obviously be out the park. I expect more like $1 billion beat in revenue for this earnings and about $1 billion beat in guidance for quarter 3. So that's what I'm expecting. My music earnings whisper is 71 earnings per share. That 71 earnings per share, I believe, is going to be for guidance of next quarter, not for this quarter. So let's see. Oh man, I don't want to click here. No, so let's see. Mark Fed says 28 billion. So yeah, I'll have this open so you guys can think. Do you think the street is underestimating sales in China? Yes, I think that's where Nvidia can do the huge beat. And if we do see the huge growth in the H20, which we've heard reports about, I think that can be one of the main reasons Nvidia destroys guidance. So I talked about here number 3 in the Substack, 17 things I'm watching. Number 3 is just the China saga. I think most analysts are underestimating this dramatically, Andy. Johan, yep, they also got TikTok, aka ByteDance, for their AI accelerators. But AI accelerators in forms of ASIC solutions are only good for one workload. And for that reason, I believe Nvidia is going to continue to dominate. Nokia, increase the volume. I apologize. It does seem like my volume is a little bit lower. I'm going to try to fix this for tomorrow. Lang, pay extra for after hours trading here, online app. Yeah, I guess Lang, some brokers have you paying extra. B, even if hyperscaler capex continues at a stronger pace, won't they eventually be limited due to energy supply constraints? The USA currently does not have nuclear energy supply. That is true, B, but you have to remember that there's a lot and a lot of servers that are unoptimized and they're pretty power hungry. So what I expect is hyperscalers, obviously, if there's not enough power, they're gonna start shutting down some of their older data centers to make sure they have plenty of power for the more advanced GPU solutions. So there's a lot of ways outside of this. It's not just as simple, there's not enough power. There's definitely going to be plenty of ways where hyperscalers are going to be able to grab some of their energy, especially on unused or inefficient data centers that they might have. Samuel, what do you think is gonna better for Nvidia stock growth tomorrow? At the end of the day, guidance. Guidance is all we really care about for tomorrow. If guidance is some crazy number, that's gonna do amazing for the stock growth. Now, the only thing I would say is if Nvidia mentions the word delay, like I've talked about earlier on in this episode, I think Wall Street, I think media is just going to run with that word delay, and everybody's going to see that as a negative sentiment. So something to think about in the short term of things. But personally, I don't think that's going to create much of a surprise. What else? If it jumps on earnings astronomical, I got a few shares to rinse and repeat. Get those long-term shares up at the end. Skate, best of luck. Yep. Do you see any winners long-term in the 13F investment that Nvidia is invested in, RX, Serve, or ARM? To be honest, my music spot, the only one I really do enjoy is RX. I think RX and the healthcare market, and for those that are not familiar, RX is a company that's working on getting on. It's a pharmaceutical company that's using artificial intelligence to design biomedical AI models. Very small market cap of $2.15 billion. Nvidia has a small investment in them. This is the only one that I believe the healthcare market is going to grow at such a rapid pace that this is what I call a lottery ticket. A lottery ticket that if this does well, this can be a multi winner. Obviously, if this does bad, it can be a very big loser. But for me, I think in forms of Nvidia's 13F investments, my favorite is RX. I really haven't followed Serve, which is that robotics company. But ARM, I personally think ARM is completely overvalued in my opinion. Definitely long-term play with Nvidia, 3 to 5 years until competition steps in. Agreed, Dilemma. And who knows, maybe 3-5 years from now, Nvidia continues to have its foot on the gas, and even if we gave competition time, they still wouldn't be ready for Nvidia. So definitely gonna be a pretty interesting day tomorrow. So let me know what other stuff do we have on tomorrow. So today was a pretty interesting day for stocks. We had Supermicro was down 2%. We saw based on that short seller report. Qualcomm was up roughly 2%, but nothing too crazy here. We do have Marvell. They do expect earnings on Thursday, the day after Nvidia. Marvell is another one I do enjoy. They do have ASIC solutions. They're like the little brother of Broadcom. They have a few wins. I think they have the win with Microsoft and their Maya. So Marvell helps Microsoft develop their own AI accelerator. So Marvell is one I'm keeping a closer eye on, one I do own, and definitely believe it has some potential. Skate Junkie, let's see. RX has hell of untapped potential. Been buying them for months at $6.40 average price. I agree. I think out of the top ones, RX is the one I enjoy the most. And this one I used to own, but during the certain sell-off, I sold off to buy more Nvidia, more bullish companies. But I think RX can definitely benefit, and one I'm gonna look to get back into. What is N's next step in vertical integration? Is Morpheus growing? So Jay, I mean, right now, I think the most important thing for Nvidia is to do what is called RAG. And right now, one of the biggest weaknesses for GPUs and for these huge training clusters is if one GPU goes down or if multiple GPUs go down, it creates a lot of headaches for these cloud server providers, for these AI companies. So Nvidia's Blackwell actually it mentioned it's gonna RAS, not RAG. I got my acronyms differently. But this is no one really talks about this. So RAS engine is a reliability, accessibility, and serviceability solution that Nvidia is adding to their GPU. So if one of the GPUs in these thousands of GPU clusters goes down, it's a lot easier to pick it back up because it mentions, right, this maximizes systems uptimes and improve resiliency for massive scale AI deployments to run uninterrupted for weeks or even months at a time. So I think Nvidia needs to master this, and we're going to obviously learn more about it if they do it with the Blackwell architecture. But if they do this right, I think that is their next vertical integration system where no competition is going to be anywhere near them. And outside of that, I mean, what more can you do after a $1 million cluster GPU? They already have the networking. They already have the software side. I can't. I don't know what else. Satellite systems. I don't know. Robert, Nvidia price will come down end of 2025 as competitors will catch up to them. That's definitely here or there. I don't see Nvidia having any competition in 2025. Especially that's the year of the Blackwell. Who else is gonna who's gonna beat Blackwell? I don't think anyone can. And then you have the Rubin. I don't think there's much. And I can show you guys Tweaktown. Tweaktown is where I found it. So news, let's see, all news. And what time is it? All right, I'll probably be here for a few more minutes, guys. But let me just see this. There's a pretty cool image here. Nvidia. There you go. I don't want your ad. Thank you, though. So look at this roadmap. So this is why Nvidia is going to be the monster. In 2024, look at all the chips Nvidia is going to release. And 2025, right? AMD is going to release one chip in 2025, the MI325X. Intel might release a Falcon Shores in 2025. Google might release one version of their TPU version 7. Amazon might release one version of their Inferentia. Microsoft might release one version of their Maya 200. Meta might release one version of their MTIA. But Nvidia, at that same 1 year, is going to release about 6 chips. So I can't see where a competition comes in for Nvidia in 2025. Obviously in the future, maybe, but I don't think right now anyone is there. Another China, Andy. Yes, I think that's why. Actually, let me go on and let's continue to go down. Definitely interesting in your take on Palantir over the next 5 years. They're aligning themselves with big players and winning big contracts. My music spot. So I do own Palantir. I don't know. There's certain stocks I don't really talk about too much in my channel just because it seems like I've really built the semiconductor niche. I am going to be breaking down more videos on companies like Palantir. I usually follow Palantir, mainly forms of their AIP. For those that are not familiar, I come from an engineering background and I come from, I used to work for a big government contractor. So for me, AIP was a huge changer from what I've seen in my previous work experience. So definitely they mentioned a lot of AI in their earnings call. I actually have a video set up. I have all the data already set up. Let me show you guys. So let's see. Where do I have it? Is it this one? No, that's not it. But I do have an episode here for Qualcomm, no executive summary. Yeah, so I already have a presentation set up for a Palantir episode where I talked about kind of their executive summary, and this is really just focusing on the AI side. I haven't done the episode, I haven't recorded it yet, but it's definitely one that I do enjoy, and they definitely bring some nice bullish case for AI. So I have it in the back end, I just really haven't worked on it too much. So let's see, what else do we have? Dilemma, hyperscalers will run this up. If beats, it may have a small sell-off, but run back up. I agree, Dilemma. I mean, stock price, anything can happen in the short term. If big tech stops spending in data centers, do you think Nvidia can keep growing with software only? I don't think so. I really don't think so with software only. They definitely have a huge growth with software, but I think if big tech stops spending, it's going to be a very bad time for Nvidia. But I don't see that happening. Andy, another question. Saw estimates for 10 to 12 billion of H20. Do you know over what time frame would that be? I think it was about 12 months, Andy. I saw those same estimates. I think it was over a year. So maybe 2 billion, 2 to 3 billion per quarter. I think this is the first quarter we saw the H20. So I think we're going to see some Chinese revenue this quarter, but we'll have to wait tomorrow to see. Joe, all in NVDL. That's amazing. Congrats if you are. Best of luck to that. Just everyone, I agree. It's not like they stopped spending on R&D. I agree. It's not like they're stopped spending. What's going on, Q? How's it going? Thank you for the support, Q. You are the best. Bohan, who's real competitor to Nvidia? I mean, I don't think there's a real competitor. I think there's definitely those that can grab some market share from Nvidia. That would be obviously AMD. They can grab a little bit of a market share. And like we talked about, I think the ASIC market is not necessarily stealing market share from Nvidia, but creating another subsegment of the AI market and AI chips, and that is ASIC accelerators, and that's going to be Broadcom and Marvell, Broadcom being the bigger winner there. But in forms of competitors, I don't think there's anyone here right now. I think the biggest competitor to Nvidia is Nvidia, right? I think Nvidia releasing on a yearly cadence, it's making their older chips less desirable than their newer chips. So at the end of the day, I think Nvidia is the only true competitor to Nvidia. Jay, are hyperscalers selling their ASICs chips or using them internally? Jay, they only use them internally. The reason they do this is because ASIC chips are only good for one workload. So let's say every single time you're only going to go this direction. You're only going to go straight. You're only going to go straight for the rest of your life. If you know you're only going to go straight for the rest of your life, you're going to build a chip that only does that one thing. Where a GPU, like NVIDIA's AI chips, they can go straight, they can go left, they can go right, they can go 90 degrees, 45 degrees, 17 degrees, whatever you program it to. And that's the strength of NVIDIA's chips. The bad thing about ASIC solutions is you can't reprogram it again once it's done. And the biggest reason for that being a bad thing is AI software is evolving. So while AI workloads right now, certain AI workloads might only need a straight line, 2-3 years from now, they might need a 15-degree line. They might need backwards or reverse. Obviously, directions have nothing to do with AI chips, but in my mind, that was the easiest way to kind of explain it. So how Microsoft goes straight might be different how Amazon goes straight, and it might be different with how Google goes straight. So that's why all these cloud service providers only use them internally, because at the end of the day, it only makes sense for their use case, and it helps with their efficiency in some power solutions. So Skate Junkie, just started watching your channel a few days ago. Love the info and delivery, bro. Nice facts, low hype. I appreciate it. That means a lot. I try to hit both the negative and the bullish sentiment for any stock that I try to cover. Real life police, how much do you think Nvidia will rise this month? I honestly don't know. I hope a lot for my portfolio, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind a lower drop so I can buy some more. My music. This might be touch off topic, but do you see the M7 and semiconductor space doing as well 2025 as they did in 2024 with rate cuts coming in the medium cap idea? Yes, my music. So let me explain why a rate cut would do amazing for the semiconductor space. So if you tend to have, right, if you have higher rates kind of slows down companies being built, right? Startups don't get built up as often. People don't start businesses as often because it's a lot more expensive to borrow money. If there's a rate cut, there's gonna supposedly be a huge boom in new businesses, in new startups, in new companies. Most of these companies, when they start up, they're gonna start to build clouding solutions. They're gonna try to increase their clouding footprint. So they're gonna go to companies like Microsoft, like Amazon, like Google, and start to developing via cloud and kind of get their infrastructure in the clouding market. If all these other players, all these cloud service providers see a growth in clouding demand and clouding infrastructure, then that's obviously going to trickle down to demand for Nvidia chips. So obviously rate cuts can definitely have a beneficial factor for companies like the Big Seven and obviously Nvidia being part of it. Thoughts on a good buying entry on the dip? I think the same levels that we saw for Nvidia before. Low 100s, this level right here. So right now, this level in the hundreds is probably the best buying opportunity if we get one. If we get those opportunities again, obviously it's gonna look like the story is over, because, like, for example, on August 7th, no one thought that, hey, look, this is gonna be the greatest thing ever. But here is where I think these levels right now, obviously after earnings, we might see different, but I think the 100 levels right now is great for Nvidia. All right, guys, I thank you all for the support. I mean, it was a random stream. I'm probably gonna be doing streams more often. I don't know. Can I put a poll here? Start a poll. So I'm looking to start live streams. I want to hear what time might be best for y'all. 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. So because of my little one, I only can do it pretty late. So I should have done this earlier, obviously. But before I close out, if I could just get maybe a rough estimate of, I want to start doing some live streams. So I really want to see what you guys think might be the best time for me to do it. And again, appreciate all the support from everybody. I don't know what's winning right now. All right, so 10 p.m. definitely no. And like I mentioned, I really can't do earlier because of my little one. I usually put him to bed. So 9 p.m., somewhere between 8 to 9. So maybe I might do even like 8:30 to 9:30. So John, let's look. What are your thoughts on MSI stock? So while we at Motorola Solutions. Is this the stock you want to look at? John and David, it's 4 a.m. I appreciate 9 or 8:30. So yeah, it seems like I might do maybe 8:30 to 9:30. That seems to be a nice perfect middle, and they'll be happy for both the 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. group. Motorola, I mean, if I'm gonna be honest, this is not a stock that I follow. Let me just pull up real quick. Let's just see what normal. I just want to look at a few things. MSI. Motorola, I mean, PE ratio forward 32, forward 1 year 29. So not crazy overvalued if you're looking at future values. Let me just see revenue growth. I'm not familiar with this company. I would just see if it's at what levels. It's growing at low single digits, 9%, 10%, 12%. I mean, it seems more like a more mature company, in my opinion. Not usually my style here. Let me see one more thing. Maybe we can look at one more thing. I just want to, and then CFO, I usually like to look cash flow from operations. I look at long-term debt, quarterly, and cash and short-term investments. I mean, a lot of debt, not growing as fast, plenty of cash from operations, some cash and short-term investments and stuff. This is just not a company I normally would follow. John, it's probably more of a mature player for maybe someone who wants to get maybe some dividend, but definitely not a company I would personally follow right now, and I don't know too much about their technology at all. So let's see. Let me see any final questions before I close out. I'm holding on to Nvidia until it drops below my average cost at 115. Can't risk going higher, especially near earnings dilemma. Nice. Yeah, I don't think I can wait for my average cost to drop to for Nvidia to drop to my average cost. That would be way too low. Small flex there. Um, Thoughts on automotive stocks? No, man. I mean, I like Tesla a lot. I think there's also a lot of semiconductor automotive stocks that can benefit, like On Semiconductor. On Semiconductor is one that one should look at if you're looking for automotive space in the semiconductor market. But yeah, guys, so I appreciate it. Seems like 8 p.m. definitely gets a better like. So I'm gonna try to shoot for maybe 8:30, so I can get a little bit between 8:30 and 9:30. So I'm trying to do it at least 3 times a week. I'm gonna try Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, except tomorrow, because tomorrow we're gonna be doing the whole earnings for Nvidia, starting around 4 o'clock. So best of luck to everybody tomorrow. Let's see you all tomorrow, and have a good day and take care. Peace.